The People's Daily stated that the decoupling between the US and China is moved against the era's trend. Huawei will develop its own 45 nanometers multi-core microchips.
The CCP bragged it developed new weapons that made the Pentagon restless. The Central Party School imposed tough penalties on retired faculty Cai Xia, who told the truth that the CCP is a political zombie.
The CCP's propaganda claimed that Taiwan would be vanquished if war broke out between Communist China and Taiwan.
The Hailin Yonghui supermarket in Shenzhen required customers using cash to register with real names because this was a government policy.
Propagandas call this is a way to conserve food, but actually this is promoting food ration stamps.
Four or five communities were flooded. I swam here to deliver food. On August 16th, the streets in Chengdu, Sichuan province were flooded by waist-deep water. People had difficulty going outdoors. Heavy rain in Chengdu created floodwater as deep as the waist. A delivery guy waded through the waist-deep flood to deliver food. 13 cities in Sichuan experienced heavy downpour on August 16th. This was allegedly the largest flood of the century. Land couldn't be seen, boats would replace cars. People's life was devastated. The peak flood will flow through Jingtown today and may exceed the record flux of 8,500 cubic meters per second. Jingtown witnessed the largest flood peak of the century. The water level in the Tuo River exceeded the alarm level by 5.74 meters. On August 16th in Ya'an, Sichuan, rain-induced flood cut off National Highway 351. The Rail Foundation hand in the air. Be careful.
A red liquid with a bloody smell overflowed the road in a park in Sichuan. Official says because of the heavy rain today, the water in this sewage network is red.
Chengdu, Sichuan on August 17, an aerial view of Jingtown in Chengdu, flooded like a swamp. Sichuan Province Fire Squad responded swiftly. As of 1450, 1,800 people were either evacuated or rescued. The rescue is still going on.
In China, there was snow in many places. Strange phenomena appeared constantly in the year of Gengzi. August 16th should be a hot summer day, but it snows in Qilian Mountain. Mr. Zhang Xin says, in Haixi and Haibei County of Qinghai Province, it snowed heavily. Pedestrians all put on warm winter clothes.
On November 17th, heavy snowfall in Manchu County, Gannan, Gansu. It's like winter already.
On August 17th, in Gannan, Gansu, snowflakes floating in Luqu County. It is beautiful. The grassland is covered with white snow. It's like winter overnight.
It's snowing in Qilian Mountain. It's snowing heavily. What kind of weather is it? It snows heavily in August.
西单山下大雪了！西单山下大。啥子个天气嘛？7月份就下大雪。成都雪是啊，没。
There are serious water accumulation issues in many places in Kunming. Roads are impassable. Citizens are struggling to get around. The road is blocked. People at work can't commute. Heavy rain caused urban waterlogging. At the lower level of Xiyuan Overpass, the water accumulation exceeded 50 centimeters. Some vehicles were flooded and the engine stalled. The road was under traffic control. CCP is still advocating a harvest in such a disaster. Zhou Xuewen, Secretary General of the State Flood Control and Drought Relief Headquarters, said, "The year of the flood is often the year of harvest." Where are those Hong Kong children being transported to? A recorded speech by Professor Cai Xia of the CCP's Central Party School. We should discuss the root cause of two major problems. One is our system, the other is our ideology. When the system reaches today, it selected such a person, or the central leadership came up with such a creation, and installed him on the top position. What does this mean? This system is hopeless by itself. Any reform or change is useless. Fundamentally, this system must be discarded. Secondly, our theory is fundamentally flawed. To explain the situation, we should start with the amendment of Constitution. We can see this party is in fact a political zombie. Political zombie. A person or a top leader can take command of the entire system by controlling the police and the military. The first way to control bureaucrats is to hold onto the evidence of their corruption. Secondly, there is no human rights and legal system in the party to protect the party members and the cadre rights. Without human rights and legal protection, the 90 million party members became slaves and tools used by certain individuals. Then anyone's comments about the Central Committee is a crime. Being dishonest to the party is also a crime. Where is the rule of law? Is there still a political party? It is completely a gangster. He will do whatever he wants to do with the people under his control. So I'm saying that this party is already a political zombie. All who could escape have already left China. Is there still any hope for this country? Hopeless. I think this party has come to an end.
Have news just breaking now on Huawei. Reuters is reporting that the Trump administration will further tighten restrictions on the Chinese company. That report says the Commerce Department will move to prevent Huawei from obtaining semiconductors without a special license. That includes chips made by foreign firms developed or produced using U.S. software or technology. The report says the new actions are aimed at preventing Huawei from circumventing U.S. export controls.
And I know that China has a lot of business with the UAE. You know, the UAE sells almost all of its oil to China. Are we going to get to a position where they're going to have to choose the U.S. or China, given the fact that there's such tension between the two countries now? I know there's a lot there, but give us your sense on the impact on Iran and China.
Absolutely. So I would say that before President Trump came in, the direction was very clear. Most of the countries in the Middle East were heading towards China because America had totally given up its leadership role in the region and had betrayed all of its allies by doing the dangerous Iran deal that gave them a glide path to a nuclear weapon and empowered them to cause more instability throughout the region. This is a big sign that people in the region want to be with America long term. We just need to be a consistent and strong leader in terms of bringing people together around common interests.
Go back and look at Obama, Biden. You had the greatest concentration of wealth in America's history during their term of office, their 2 terms. President Trump turned that around to a striver's economy where blacks, Hispanics, the working class, middle class were starting to get increases in pay and lower unemployment. Also, Joe Biden was put in charge by President Obama of the pivot to Asia. And what did the Democrats do? They cut a terrible deal with Iran that then partnered with the Chinese Communist Party. It was Joe Biden that fumbled the pivot to Asia. It was Joe Biden that basically gave away the South China Sea, walked away from the cyber intrusions. It was Joe Biden put in charge of trying to confront the Chinese Communist Party, and he failed. So I think think this week is going to be great for the Trump campaign and the RNC and the White House to let the American people see exactly what the policies are, what America is. And here's what they want. They want death and destruction. They want the death of the American economy and the destruction of the American way of life. And I think if that's highlighted by the end of the week, it'll smoke Joe Biden out of his basement. He's going to have to stop doing the Proof of Life podcast and get on the hustings and prove that he could take on Donald Trump, because I think the policies themselves will blow this election out.
What are your thoughts on Biden's choice of Kamala Harris?
I think Biden picked the perfect candidate for him because I think it's so juxtaposed to what President Trump stands for. I think Senator Harris is the perfect running mate for him because now you can show the globalization. Remember, and with Biden, you don't have a Manchurian candidate. You have a Beijing candidate. The victory right here for President Trump, I think, is very specific. It goes right through Beijing. You hold him accountable for the pandemic. You hold him accountable for the economic carnage, for all the deaths. You start to confront the Chinese Communist Party everywhere in technology and economics and what they're doing. You start to bring back the supply chains. You start to bring back high value added manufacturing jobs. That is the path to victory. Joe Biden is in cahoots. He's compromised by Beijing. He's compromised by the Chinese Communist Party. Senator Harris is basically a cipher on this, so they're not going to be able to combat that. I think President Trump, action, like he's been doing, and what Jared Kushner did the other day in this fabulous deal with UAE, with other things to come. And remember, Jared's right. That's bringing back the Middle East to the side of the United States in this great confrontation with the Chinese Communist Party against Iran, against Pakistan, against Turkey, and against Russia.
Dave, I think you had a question.
Sanjay, the question is, building on what Colonel Selin said earlier about the China-Pakistan economic corridor, for me, which is the China-Pakistan military corridor. And I believe, looking at your maps, it actually passes through Gilgit-Baltistan. So what are your views? And since Gilgit-Baltistan by law and the articles of accession signed before India's independence legally belongs to India, and so the encroaching upon Gilgit-Baltistan first by Pakistan and then by China. So what are the legal and security ramifications of that?
Well, Dave, if you look at the United Nations Security Council Resolution 47 in 48, that was passed in Resolution 47 passed in 1948. It says that Pakistan is an aggressor. It has to withdraw. It gave Pakistan 90 days to withdraw from Gilgit-Baltistan. It allowed India to keep its forces there to help the United Nations and protect the life, honor, and assets of the local people. So even the United Nations Security Council recognized India as a legitimate sovereign authority in Gilgit-Baltistan. Unfortunately, Pakistan refused to withdraw, and United Nations spent another 10 years trying to convince Pakistan, and when it didn't happen, then it kind of like went into the cold storage. So, the ramifications of, as I said, Gilgit-Baltistan provides the only land link between Pakistan and China. And Pakistan being a nuclear power supported by China, now trying to connect with Iran, it's a really bad deal for South Asia, for Central Asia, for the Middle East in the coming years. And Gilgit-Baltistan, Peter Hopkirk in his book, The Great Game, said, Gilgit-Baltistan is the cockpit of Asia. whoever sits in there controls the whole of Asia. So I think that is true even today. I mean, China controlling Gilgit-Baltistan, which is south of the Himalayas and the Karakoram, it gives them open access to the Indian Ocean, to the Persian Gulf, to the Arabian Sea, and it allows China to extend its tentacles into the Muslim countries and try to compete with the United States. So right now it may look like it has only access to Iran, but very soon I think it will try to extend its tentacles to Syria and other countries.
We're going to have to go to a hard break here. Great information. Back in a second.
UAE 以色列沙特和平了啊！你去想一想，共产党过去这几十年，他就是V2、V1.5、1在中东，他认为我战略政治成功啊，地缘政治搞“一带一路”啊，中东啊，石油啊，能源呐，然后的这个人民币国际化呀，然后就牛的不行了。然后0.5在非洲啊，搞的这些东西，完全是在搞这个蓝地黄支持独裁。如果中东啊，这个 UAE 的变化，现在大家知道事情，中国共产党根本不知道，人家就见条了。这是我打脸的。我跟老班长咱俩在这块直播，下1分钟你宣布你跟锯腿盘跑一起去了，你说我得多伤心，有多伤害啊！这不是你跟我直播，下面说被共产党搞勾兑去了，老班长你能睡得着？你不气死了吗？这么好的兄弟，怎么突然间你就跟这个咱们的敌对方合作去了呢？不知道，这说明是 UAE。非常清楚，我和中国人友好，我顾及的是我国家人民的利益，我顾及的是我跟随的还是美国啊。然后呢，一直没变，我可能跟伊朗达成历史性协议，我能跟以色列好，我干嘛不能跟你伊朗好啊？我跟伊朗没啥仇啊。这个沙特也要跟过去啊，沙特一旦跟过去，埃及你能不跟吗？那埃及跟整个东非、北非。那这些国家不七上八下全跟过来了，那你想搞这1.5什么“一带一路2”都嗝屁了，你这个意义大吗？这个影响对咱灭共来讲，我给你老班长，我可以告诉你，他这个影响太大了，卸了整个共产党的半条腿，甚至说卸了一条大腿，因为他整个“一带一路”、整个中东战略、整个东非、北非的彻底失败。而且杨娘娘在中东，在这个是个最重要的人士，那么几百亿美元的利润呢，全家在那儿发大财。你说这共产党能不查他吗？啊，你这个王八蛋在那儿赚那么多钱，结果现在中东这个是你哥们儿，那个是你哥们儿，那个是我们叫全天候兄弟战略伙伴关系。刚签完，这边就打脸了，不但打脸，还突然演出，还踹咱小鸡鸡是吧？这弄得那么难受，多难受！但是你不要，接下来更可怕，你都不知道一个沙特UAE和以色列和埃及能做成什么事啊？这就是可怕。
Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is reported to be hospitalized for a medical checkup. Michelle Bolsonaro, the First Lady of Brazil, indicated that our latest COVID-19 test result was negative. U.S. troops in South Korea raised health protection levels in response to a new outbreak in the country. New Zealand delayed elections by 4 weeks over resurgence of the coronavirus pandemic. Singapore announces an additional $5.8 billion to boost its virus-stricken economy. Malaysia and Singapore reopen borders for business travel. U.S. Treasury yields decline as the coronavirus pandemic persists. European stock markets fluctuate amid coronavirus and geopolitical tensions. The airline industry struggles in the pandemic with massive looming joblessness.